My name is Maya Roberts, 31 years old, living in Austin, Texas. I used to think I was very lucky to meet Ethan, a man with a charming smile, calm eyes, and a future that everyone would envy. We met at an agricultural technology startup conference. I was a marketing specialist, and he was the owner of a small company specializing in farm automation. A quick love affair. A simple but warm wedding. And then, life together seemed to flow very smoothly. We lived in a 2-story Craftsman-style house just outside Austin, with a large balcony overlooking a pear orchard. Our new life was filled with peaceful moments, plus afternoons drinking tea on the porch, plus weekend drives to Lake Travis, immersing ourselves in nature, plus plans for future children. Ethan's family was also very nice at first. His parents, Charles and Joanne, were from the successful Texas business class. They often invited us to large family gatherings where everything was shiny and full of compliments. I felt welcome. At least, I thought so. Things began to change, ever so slightly. About a year after the wedding, Ethan started to get busier. He often came home late, his phone was always in his hand, and sometimes, when I entered the room, he quickly turned off the phone screen or put it face down on the table. I asked. He smiled and said, "It's just a new project. The partner is very difficult. I have to be on duty." I completely trusted him without any doubts. I even worried and felt sorry for him because he worked hard and was busy day and night. Then she appeared, Chloe Benson, Ethan's new assistant. Chloe, 24 years old, beautiful, lively, always wore tight bodycon dresses, even in simple meetings. Ethan introduced her to me at a company party. "This is Chloe, my new right-hand woman." She smiled, shook my hand, and looked at Ethan with eyes shining like a child given a new toy. At that time, I just laughed it off, even though something inside me felt down. After that party, Chloe showed up more and more. Family party? Chloe was there. Weekend picnic? Chloe was accidentally invited. Mother-in-law's birthday? Chloe was seated next to Ethan, and no one thought it was strange. I started to feel lost in my own life. I tried to probe Joanne, my mother-in-law. "Chloe has been getting along really well with our family lately, Mom." She just smiled, her eyes flickering. "She's quick and capable. Ethan needs people like that around to grow the company." Just one sentence, but I heard the implication. If Maya can't help Ethan, then let Chloe do it. Ethan's late nights stretched into weeks. Cold meals. "Where are you?" Texts sent only to receive in a meeting. Sneaky phone calls from the yard, far from my reach. I didn't sleep well. I started rummaging through everything. This is something I swore I would never touch, my husband's phone. And then, I found something small, so small, but it made my heart sink. A text from Chloe. "Last night was amazing. I hope there are many more like it." Ethan had deleted the chat history, but not all of it. The message remained like the first crack. I put the phone down, my hands shaking. That was the moment I knew. We were no longer a married couple. But I had no idea what I was about to find out was 100 times worse. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, eyes wide open, listening to the clock ticking in the dark room. Beside me, Ethan slept soundly, peaceful, carefree, as if he hadn't just stabbed me in the heart. That text message, "Last night was amazing," echoed in my head over and over again. The next morning, when Ethan left for work, I sat down at my laptop. I'm not a detective. I'm not used to investigating, but I know how to find what I need. I started by checking Ethan's credit card history. We shared a sub-account for household expenses, but Ethan had his own for company expenses. I snuck into his online account, and there it was. A bill for a high-end hotel in downtown Austin, the very day Ethan said he was going to a meeting in Dallas. A receipt for a Tiffany bracelet, over $1,500, that I never received. Late-night Uber rides, from the area of Chloe's luxury apartment. I sat there, stunned. It was no longer a feeling. It was no longer a guessing. It was all brutally obvious. Ethan was having an affair, not by accident, not just once, but a deliberate hidden affair nurtured alongside this marriage. That night, I waited for Ethan to come home. Dinner was cold on the table. I sat across from him, eyes fixed. Ethan frowned. "Why are you looking at me like that?" I didn't reply. I just pushed the printed receipts toward him. Along with a copy of the "last night was amazing" text message I'd screenshotted. Ethan froze. A moment of confusion, then a flash of calm. He smirked. "You're hacking into my personal account?" I laughed. A dry, tired laugh. "So you don't deny it?" Ethan sighed, leaning back in his chair. I was wrong. I was weak, Maya. Work is stressful. Chloe is with me. She's young, easygoing. Unlike you, always stressed, controlling. Each word was like pouring gasoline on the fire. He blamed me for his betrayal. At this moment, I was awakened. I realized his other side. Before being discovered, he always showed that he loved his wife, needed a family, was a dignified man with a glorious career. If I let my heart overwhelm my mind at this moment, I might have thought that I was at fault and that he was just in love. When this marriage was tiring, then he would know how to find the right way back. But no, being faithful or having an affair is a choice. And he chose to have an affair as a way to end this marriage. I don't accept any excuses. I clenched my fists under the table. But my voice remained calm. Do you think a one-night stand in a 5-star hotel is weak? Do you think a series of bills that lasted for months is accidental? Do you think giving gifts secretly, picking me up, and lying is uncontrollable? Ethan was silent. That was the moment I realized the man sitting in front of me was no longer the Ethan I loved. He didn't feel remorse, just regret for being caught. 3 days later, my husband's family invited me to their home. An intimate meeting, according to his mother-in-law, Mrs. Joanne. I went, partly because I wanted to listen, partly because I wanted to see for myself how brazen they were. In the living room, brightly lit by chandeliers, they were waiting. Charles, Joanne, and Ethan. Mrs. Joanne started. Maya, we're adults, right? We all know that no one is perfect. Ethan made a mistake, but Chloe, she loves this family very much. Instead of making a big deal out of it, why don't we try accepting Chloe as a sister, as part of the family? I thought I heard wrong. They didn't ask Ethan to apologize. They didn't ask to end the relationship. They asked me to accept the mistress as a sister in the family. It sounded ridiculous. Joanne added, if you agree, we will transfer 10% of the company's shares to your name as a guarantee for the future. Since when did love and family ties become a transaction? They wanted me to accept the third party as a sister, which was no different from treating me like a puppet in this house. I had to watch my husband cheat and take the money silently without the right to speak up, without the right to do anything. For their reputation? For their satisfaction? No one thought about me. I stood up, looked at each person in that room, people who put reputation, money, image above the self-respect of others. I calmly said, I don't sell myself. I don't sell my daughter either. You choose money. I choose self-respect. Then I left, not once looking back. But I wouldn't just leave in silence. I would fight back. And this time, I will not be lenient. After the night I left Joanne and Charles's house, I drove around the city. Austin at night was cool. The wind blew through the car window. But I felt nothing. Not angry. Not sad. Not hurt. Just a terrible emptiness. I asked myself, should I let it go? For Ruby. For a complete family. For a less turbulent life? I remembered what my mother had taught me. Every family has secrets. A smart woman is one who knows when to close her eyes. But then, I thought of Ruby's eyes. Her clear eyes as she made Ethan a birthday card with her own hands, filled with pink hearts. If I stayed, kept quiet, accepted, I would teach her that women are born to endure, to be forgiven, to be half accepted, to live in half. I couldn't do that. I couldn't sell my self-respect and teach my child with a broken mirror. I stopped in front of a small coffee shop, ordered a black coffee with ice, and sat alone by the window. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to think differently. I don't need permission to be free. I opened my phone, deleted all the Parker family photos from my phone, deleted Joanne's and Charles's numbers, blocked Chloe, and finally, saved Kendra's number, my best friend, who is now a lawyer at a large firm in Austin. The next morning, I arranged to meet Kendra. The coffee shop was small, the sunlight slanted through the window. I told her the whole story, from the evidence of the affair to the offer to accept the mistress. Kendra pondered, then said, if I just get a divorce, they will force me to leave empty-handed. That family is very good at covering up. But if I have evidence of unclear finances, I will not only save myself, but also my daughter. Kendra explained. The Parker family had many shady transactions related to Ethan's company. If I could prove that Ethan had embezzled funds, committed tax fraud, or misused company funds for personal gain, e.g., to fund his relationship with Chloe, I could. White heavy check mark keep custody of Ruby. White heavy check mark keep my personal assets. White heavy check mark and even uncover the Parker family's long buried scandals. I began to plan. No anger. No tears. Just action. I went home, quiet as a shadow. I reconstructed Ethan's schedule. When he was late, his strange expenses, the places he checked in on his phone. I used computer cloning software, backed up all of Ethan's work emails to my personal hard drive. I also attached a GPS tracker to Ethan's car, a tiny device no one would notice. In just 3 weeks, I had evidence that Ethan used company cards to pay for vacations with Chloe in Cancun, Miami. The hotel bill was under Ethan's name, but the booking email was Chloe's. Emails between Ethan and the head accountant, discussing washing the books to cover up the illegal charges. I was no longer the woman who sat crying in the dark. I turned my pain into action, my betrayal into a weapon. One Friday, Ethan texted, "This Sunday, the whole family is getting together. Joanne wants us to talk about Ruby's new home." I smiled. Sunday is Sunday. Just in time for me to share something. For the first time in months, there was no fear. There was only the willingness to fight to protect myself and Ruby. I had picked the day. I had picked the weapon. And I had chosen the way to leave, no more bowing. This Sunday would be a day the Parkers would never forget. At night, Joanne's house was lit from the front yard to the back garden. Charles's black Cadillac Escalade was parked in front of the door. Ethan had just picked up Chloe from somewhere. She stepped out of the car, dressed as if she were the new owner. I stood at the gate. My hand was clutching the small leather bag. Inside were all the evidence I had prepared for the past 3 weeks. No more shaking. No more hesitation. I walked in. The large living room was filled with food, wine, and scented candles. Joanne and Charles sat in the middle, their faces beaming. Ethan stood next to them, one hand gently placed on Chloe's back, as if he wanted the whole world to see how happy they were. I sat down on the chair, my face calm. Joanne said, "Dear Maya, today we want to talk about the future. Our family needs to be together more than ever." I smiled slightly. Yes. And I also have some things to share. I pulled out the documents and placed them in the middle of the table. Before we talk about the future, maybe we should be honest about the present. Joanne frowned. Chloe grabbed Ethan's hand. Her eyes were wary. I opened the file, my voice even. Hotel receipts, plane tickets for Ethan's business trips, with Chloe's check-in photos. Corporate card expenses, spa, restaurant, gifts, all spent on Chloe, listed as entertainment expenses. Internal email. Ethan and the chief accountant discussed hiding invoices to avoid taxes. I pulled out each piece of evidence like a knife and slashed it on the table. Joanne's face turned pale. Charles was red. Chloe jerked her hand away from Ethan, taking a step back as if she had been splashed with boiling water. Ethan growled, "Maya, what are you doing?" I remained calm. Nothing. It's just that if we're going to talk about family, we should start with honesty. I opened a USB. This USB drive has all of Ethan's emails, financial transactions, and illegal spending schedules. If necessary, I have a backup copy to send to the lawyer. I looked at Joanne. "Mom, you're worried about keeping the family image? So what do you think if this gets out? Tax fraud, embezzlement, fraud of shareholders." Joanne's hands trembled. She grabbed her glass of wine, almost spilling it on the table. I continued, "I've contacted the lawyer. I have the right to claim custody of Ruby and full ownership of the family home because Ethan used family assets for illegal purposes. I've also prepared a complaint if anyone in this family continues to put pressure on me or my daughter." Every word was like a hammer blow to the faces of those who thought they could manipulate me with a few empty promises. Joanne cried. Charles was panting as if he was about to have a stroke. Ethan stammered, "Maya, can we talk privately?" I smiled softly. "It's too late, Ethan. You had your chance when I loved you. Now, I only have a lawyer." I stood up, picked up my bag. Before walking out the door, I turned back. "You thought I was weak. You thought I would stay silent. But you forgot one thing. No one is stronger than a woman who has nothing left to lose." I strode out, not looking back. The Austin night was windy. And I knew this was just the beginning. I left Joanne's house that night, leaving behind horrified eyes and a chaotic room. But I knew the battle had only just begun. On Monday morning, Kendra, my lawyer friend, filed formal lawsuits in Travis County District Court. White heavy check mark divorce papers. White heavy check mark full custody of Ruby. And most importantly, a detailed financial report accusing Ethan of embezzling company assets. Shortly thereafter, the court immediately issued a temporary restraining order against Ethan and Parker Robotics while the investigation continued. The news spread like wildfire. The Austin Business Journal published the first story, CEO Ethan Roberts charged with embezzlement, tax fraud. Parker Robotics faces bankruptcy. Within 48 hours, Parker Robotics shareholders called for an emergency meeting. The board asked Ethan to step down as CEO to assist in the investigation. The Parker family, a clean-cut, middle-class American pariah, had become the laughingstock of the local business community. Ethan was frantic. He called me, texted me, even sent me handwritten letters, begging, pleading, swearing. Of course, I didn't respond. A man who only apologizes when he's exposed doesn't deserve my compassion. Chloe wasn't doing any better. A few days later, I heard that Chloe had been fired from the company immediately, ostracized by her acquaintances, and forced to move out of the luxury apartment Ethan had rented for her. Joanne and Charles were not spared either. The bank began auditing all loans related to Parker Robotics. They temporarily lost control of their major assets. White heavy checkmark a farm outside Georgetown. White heavy checkmark a string of rental homes in Round Rock. And a partial freeze on their personal savings. The once proud family was now running around like beggars. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't happy. I felt a cold relief. They had chosen money over character. Now money was swallowing them. 3 weeks later, at a preliminary hearing, the judge ruled. The marital assets were divided 7-3, overwhelmingly in my favor, due to Ethan's breach of the marriage covenant. I was given full custody of Ruby. Ethan was required to pay child support every month, regardless of his financial situation. I signed the divorce papers with a decisive stroke, without a tear. The day the divorce was officially confirmed, I took Ruby out for ice cream. The two of us sat on the steps in front of a small shop in downtown Austin, the sunset dyeing the sky red. Ruby laughed heartily, leaned in to hug me. Mom, from now on, we only have each other. Right? I nodded, smiled, my heart as light as it had ever been. I used to think that if I kept quiet, if I accepted, I would be able to protect my family, protect Ruby. But it turns out, a mother's greatest strength is not keeping quiet. It's knowing when to stand up, say I know, and fight for the truth. The Parker family used to think I was weak. They were wrong. I wasn't weak. I just endured, until I had enough evidence to end the injustice forever. Now, looking back, I can only see one thing. I didn't choose to keep a fake family. I chose to keep my dignity and give my daughter a future she deserved. 3 months after the trial, Ruby and I moved to a small town called Fredericksburg, in the heart of Texas Hill Country. There were no skyscrapers, no flashy parties, just oak-lined streets, small cafes, and the smell of apple pie baking in the afternoons. We rented a small cabin, 2 bedrooms, a garden of wildflowers, and an old swing under a tree. It was everything I needed. A place to start over. No more lies. No more checking my phone. No more eye contact. Every morning, I made coffee, sat on the porch, and watched Ruby run around the yard with her new puppy. She named him Brave. That name was her gift to herself and to me. I began to slow down. Afternoons, I took Ruby to the town library. Evenings reading to my children under the yellow light. Weekends baking, planting flowers, fixing an old swing. No one urged me to be perfect. No one forced me to close my eyes and let it go. I was able to be myself, simple, free, complete. One late autumn afternoon, Ruby and I walked through the lavender fields near our house. The wind blew through our hair. The flowers smelled fresh. Ruby laughed loudly. Mommy, I feel like I'm flying. I laughed along with her. That's right, girl. We're flying. Flying away from everything that held us back before. I used to think that family was something you had to hold on to at all costs. But now I understand. Family is not a place where you are forced to sacrifice your dignity. Family is where you can be yourself and still be loved completely. If you're stuck in a toxic relationship, if you've ever been forced into silence for fear of losing your so-called family, remember, you're not alone. You're not weak. You're not wrong to leave to save yourself. Because you deserve a life that doesn't require permission to be happy. I sat on my front steps tonight, holding Brave in my arms. Ruby sat next to me, her head on my shoulder. Over Fredericksburg, the stars were sparkling like crystals. I closed my eyes, tilted my face up, and whispered, "Thank you for giving me the courage to walk away." And for the first time in years, I knew, deep in my heart, I was truly free.